We're looking at creating a new HTML template using the new tags that are available in HTML5. As you can see from this example, header is one of the new tags, article, nav, section. All these tags help, when properly used, a search engine to index your site. And you can see them over here in the structure, underneath structure, in the insert tag. You still have the divs. Divs can still be used, but a div tag is a generic block level element. And previously we would have said up here, instead of saying header, we would have said div equals header, or we could call it anything we wanted to call it. It could be a class or an ID. We could call it top square if we wanted to. So one thing that HTML5 is doing is standardizing all these tags. So you have all these new tags, section, footer, figure, and this changes. One thing you can see here is a header is used in two different places, here and here. And also, you're using the H1 tags twice, where previously you might have run the risk of being penalized, because search engines, when they index the H1 tag, they put a lot of emphasis on it. It has a fairly good amount of potency as far as increasing your rank or telling you what's going on in the page. So here's a HTML5 page right here. Although you can't see the structure, you have another page here, which I'm going to put the link to. The HTML outliner. Now I put in the URL. And this is the result of setting up your all your elements correctly using the new HTML5 elements. You can use this to check your site just to make sure things are set up right. So you see you have the header, another header down here. Article holds everything in. Article, footer. You don't have to have a footer at the bottom. A footer can be, as you can see up here, these are almost like mini. You have a side, and all of these, this is another thing I'm going to be including, is an element flowchart to help you determine what the proper usage of these new HTML elements, HTML5. So now I'm on to creating a new HTML5. We want blank page, we want none. We want to make sure we're in HTML5 to create. The first thing we're going to do is create a wrapper, which is going to hold our, hold our all of our content, just like here. But with a wrapper, there's no element already created in HTML5, so we're still using a div for that, just for the wrapper, as you can see up here. So go to structure, do div, and I'm going to call this a wrapper, just so in case anyone else might be working on this site, they'll have an idea. Use it as an ID, meaning it's only going to happen once on the page. If there were 3 of them, I might use a class. If there were 3 wrappers. So this ID applies only to one element. So I'm going to give it a background color so I can, distinguish it from the white background. Go down to box. Here, these are the only two things we're concerned with here. Is doing the width. And I'm going to give it a height. And the reason I'm giving it a height, I could take the height away afterwards. I'm giving it a height so I can, if I don't do that, I'm just going to have two lines up top that is condensed together. And as I add all these other rectangles to the layout here, what would happen is I'd be kind of relying on blind faith because I wouldn't be seeing the actual boxes appearing, because they'd just be what I would end up having is just two lines up here going across with everything inside of it. So by doing this again, I'm able to see what's actually going on. So one thing I want to do is I want this to be centered. So I'm going to take this and make both sides auto. And that's going to be making each side equal so it stays centered. And add insertion point. We want to make sure, yep, we're right inside the body. All of our content's going inside the body. So here it is. Right inside the body, div ID wrapper. Content for ID wrapper goes here. We actually don't need that. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a new HTML5 header element to the top. It's going to be 960, sitting right inside of the wrapper. It's going to be 960 by 200, and this will house my maybe logo or whatever type, maybe a picture or whatever up top. So I'm going to go up to header, and I want this to fall. All the components I'm putting in now are going to fall inside of the wrapper, which I've already created. So my cursor's in the right place here, but just to be on the safe side, I'll do after start of tag and after start of tag wrapper. And I'll give this an ID, meaning it's only going to happen once. So I probably could figure out a better description than this, but I'll just call it top and create new CSS role. I could probably think of a word that would help more in terms of adding to the when the search engine compiles all the data, top is not going to be the best. If I knew what the site was about, I might be able to add some type of a word that would help in getting a higher rank in the search engines, but I'm just going to use ID. So new CSS role, ID, my ID I just created as top. If this was about a site about bikes or something, I might call this bike pictures or something. Do OK. And for background, I want to be able to see that it's actually been created. Give it a color. Create the box. We know it's 960. And 200. And everything else is OK. After start of tag, ID wrapper. ID is top. So here it is, up top.